When you picture a military force, you picture absolute conformity. Individuals are trained to move in perfectly synchronized steps and follow exact orders. The grueling physical demands and these massive parades project an impenetrable, stoic facade, reinforcing the idea of a soldier as a humorless extension of the state. To maintain that order, recruits spend months repeating basic motions, even using mirrors to replicate marksmanship fundamentals until the action becomes a robotic habit. From the outside, the civilian expectation is that the men and women who survive this environment and face combat must be entirely serious, stripped of any capacity for lightheartedness. Yet the bestseller lists of Urdu literature over the last half-century reveal a massive contradiction hiding in plain sight. Many of the most beloved and successful humorous writers in the language are combat veterans and retired colonels. The high-stakes environment of the Pakistan Army functioned like a pressure cooker, creating a class of writers who introduced a blunt, satirical voice to the Urdu literary canon. This tradition took root in the middle of the 20th century. Between the rocky trenches and burning vehicles of the Western Desert Theater during World War II, soldiers lived through a grim, highly dangerous reality. Among them was Colonel Muhammad Khan, who served in the British Indian Army and deployed across Iraq, the Middle East, and, as seen with these saluting colonial-era soldiers, the pyramids of Egypt. Khan documented these deployments in an autobiography called Bajang Ahmad. Instead of a dry military history, he wrote a satirical account that became one of the most famous books in Urdu literature. He was soon followed by another foundational pillar of this movement, Major Zamir Jafri. Jafri served through multiple Indo-Pakistani wars and eventually took on major roles in the development of Islamabad, Pakistan's capital. Over his career, he authored 78 books, including works in Urdu, Punjabi, and English. He used his poetry to mock the heavy bureaucracy and the rigid social hierarchies of the very institutions he served. For these early pioneers, writing satire was a vital psychological shield, required to survive the stressors of active duty service. Later generations of officers took that same satirical lens and applied it to the training grounds of the Pakistan Military Academy at Kakul. You can see the physical toll of this environment in the strained faces of cadets performing this synchronized overhead rifle drill. Author Saulat Raza captured this environment in his book Kakuliyat. He pulled back the curtain on cadet life, taking the hyper-strict routines and grueling physical punishments and turning them into punchlines. But the comedy continued into commissioned life. Look at these officers inspecting the weapons laid out on the ground. Military management involves a large amount of mundane, everyday operational reality, which Colonel Ashfaq Hussain expertly documented. Hussain launched a highly popular series focused on the humorous account of his days in the army, beginning with the book Gentleman Bismillah. Through his own personal accounts, he captured the bureaucratic quirks and the deep camaraderie of an active duty officer's daily life. This diagram tracks the mechanics of their humor. As the rigid block of institutional rules presses down, the resulting pressure is vented through self-deprecation and subversion. The extreme rigidity of the armed forces is exactly what makes the discovery of its loopholes and human errors relatable to those within the system. The collective works of these authors established military humor as a distinct subgenre within Urdu literature. Historically, a disconnect has existed between the general civilian population and the sequestered armed forces. By consistently topping bestseller lists, these humorous accounts gave civilians a rare, detailed look at the lives of officers behind the barracks gates. Authors like Khan, Jafri, Hussain, and Raza replaced the image of robotic, unfeeling soldiers with relatable, flawed individuals. Men who could hold a rigid expression and then break into a subtle, knowing smirk. Their books demonstrated that wit and laughter are essential tools for coping with the immense pressures of national duty. The final impact of these works is proof that the human capacity for joy persists, even in the most rigidly controlled environments.